Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. With 2 games remaining on the season, we thought it was a good time for us both to address the public about the season at large, next season, any questions you may have. From my standpoint, looking at the entire organization, I think that we're very pleased with everything that happened up and down the organization this year. First and foremost, the way that this team played and competed at the major league level is something that I think rightfully our players and coaches deserve a lot of credit for. We're not where we want to be or need to be in our division. It's very daunting looking at these other 4, not only teams, but organizations in our division, and picturing having to beat them to make it to the playoffs next year, but that's our goal. And we feel that the organization is in a position now to realistically pursue that goal for next year, and so that's going to be my focus this offseason, and I think the focus of our squad when we meet in Sarasota next year. So it's not going to be easy, given who we have to compete against and who we have to play against. But as I said in the summer, I feel like this team is officially in the fight in the American League East, and that's a big achievement, I think, for us. It doesn't mean that we're going to be complacent about it. We know that I think we had some relatively good health this season. We had some guys had good seasons. It's tough to repeat in this league. Players make adjustments against you. We've got a lot of young guys. We may have some individual steps back, but we plan to hopefully reinforce this group, keep helping the players improve, and hope that we can take another step forward next season and get into the playoffs that we narrowly missed out on this year. As far as the rest of the organization goes, I think that the minor league accolades kind of speak for themselves, but I would, from an internal assessment, echo our belief in the strength of our minor league system. We had a number 1 overall pick make a very successful, very impressive debut this year. We had the number 1 prospect in baseball come up and make a successful major league debut. And our top 10 prospects list is as deep as I've ever been around in my career. So we're very excited about that. We're going to keep it going. We've got to keep drafting and developing well in a very competitive business, and we're trying to keep our edge in the warehouse, and we'll continue to do that. We also broke ground on a Dominican facility and a pitching lab, and we want to continue to make the infrastructure in this organization on par with the best in the league, and our partnership group supports that goal as well. So I think we're going to continue to see infrastructure investments, and it's always going to be an area of focus of mine, and it's something that we have to balance against player personnel investments as well at times, and we're going to try to do both as well as we possibly can. I think that we've been consistent about that messaging since we've been here, and I'm pleased with what happened in 2022 to reflect that. I'll turn it over to Brandon for any questions as well, but looking at this team this year, got a lot of young guys that are going to be here for a while that had really good seasons. We have, in my mind, 2 Rookie of the Year candidates. I think we have the Manager of the Year candidate here sitting next to me. So we have a lot of really exciting individual pieces here to build around going forward. And I'm excited about the challenge ahead for me and for us in continuing to keep progress going.
What areas would you like to target in the offseason to upgrade the club in free agency or trade?
It's really tough. We've been having meetings about this for a month, and we're going to continue to do that. And it's not something obvious that I think we're going to target a certain position. I think we're going to look at any and all ways to improve our chances of making the playoffs, within the budget that we're going to be working with. And that's going to depend on what the market gives us. And I think there are a number of areas where we could supplement this team. So I don't have a specific prediction about which position any major league acquisitions are going to come in. I think one thing that makes this a little bit tricky is we have very interesting internal candidates for almost every single job. It's not necessary that we go target one particular part of the team. I think we're going to be looking to supplement and upgrade, and how that fits into the whole roster, it's going to be case by case.
Mike, Do you intend to exercise the option on Jordan Lyles for next year?
Well, that's not something that I declare this far in advance. Part of this business is the calendar that contracts and the Major League schedule put forward. I think that looking at what Jordan did for us this year, it was more than exactly what we hoped for when we signed him. And he was a tremendous influence on our staff this year. He pitched, I think, 179 innings, won some games for us, helped these young guys take a step forward, helped protect our young bullpen that did so much this year. So kudos to him for everything. But we'll take the business aspect of the business as it comes. But in a baseball sense, I want to thank him and congratulate him for 2022.
Along those lines, what kept Jordan from starting today?
We just felt after the start in New York that he made 32 starts for us and did everything that we could have asked him and more. And he's had a heck of a year, and we're so happy with what he's done. And we wanted to end it on a good note with that start in Yankee Stadium.
Mike, one of the trends we've seen the last couple of years is with young players being signed, 0 to 3 guys being signed by their organizations. That's something, especially with 0 to 3 guys, the Orioles have not done over the years. Is that something you're looking to do? What is your philosophy on that? And do you at least believe that there might be some discussions towards that this offseason?
My philosophy is that we look to do everything when it comes to player contracts, player acquisition on a pretty case-by-case level. And there's some things that make sense, and it takes 2 to tango. And we look at those, we talk about them. I think in order to best advance the objectives of the Orioles franchise and ball club, which is what I try to do in my position, I, by nature, am quiet about our activities in those areas unless I'm forced not to be. And so, if those conversations have happened or will happen, it's not going to be something that I'm going to get out there and telegraph, because I also want the people that I'm doing business with to know that I'm discreet about those activities. So we'll see. It's not something that you force, but if it makes sense for both sides, they tend to happen, and hopefully we'll have some of that.
Mike, when did you realize this season was going to be productive? What game or what day did you realize?
That the season was as good as it. It's just kind of. I read some quotes from Austin Hayes, and that was the way that I think it felt for me. It just crept up on us that this team was playing really well and the wins were stacking up, and I think it was very organic, which was cool to see, and that was our approach. I think we've come into he and I came into a very tough spot at the end of 2018, and we just kept trying to do the right thing for the organization with every move, every little decision, and kind of kept our eye on the ball, and we had to navigate the pandemic, and it seemed to congeal this year organically. It doesn't mean that we're going to take it for granted that it's going to happen again next year. Not going to take it for granted that we're going to have a better record next year. We've got these other 4 teams that make great moves every winter, that have huge resources, that also have good farm systems. It's scary. So we're just going to continue to keep making good decisions and trying to do the right thing for the organization, and hopefully organically we have another step forward next year, and I hope that means playing next week, next year.
Mike, you quoted earlier in the year saying that this offseason you'd be in a position to spend some money. Is that in the context of your position as a medium market or a small to medium market team, or is it possible that in the right situation you could make an eye-popping move?
Again, I don't want to announce a budget to the agent community nor the other 29 teams, but I do continue to view this as an off-season where we're going to have the flexibility to invest in the Major League payroll in a different way than I have done since I've been here. The moves are going to have to make sense. We're not going to force it. But we feel that the time is right from a strategic standpoint. In fact, the time is pressing to do that now that we have the foundation of the top farm system in baseball and a major league team that is young and talented, and now with a 500-plus record. This is the time to start to make more significant investments in the Major League payroll, whether that comes in the form of free agents or kind of buy-side trades. I don't know yet, but I would expect one, if not both, of those types of activities from us. And also, we're interested in bringing more fans into the park and bringing our revenues back up and making the organization more healthy from a business standpoint so that we can continue to grow in the future. So that's all part of it. And I think this is going to be a pretty pivotal next 12 months for us in that regard.
You mentioned the business aspect. There's obviously some things happening off the field with the organization in terms of ownership, the lease. Do you expect either of those to affect how you operate this offseason?
We've had challenges and strange things every year since we've been here. I've learned that every organization, there's always kind of stuff going on that you have to deal with. We both have a lot of experience in this business. I think we've demonstrated an ability to navigate other unexpected activities kind of off the field in the years that we've been here. And I see, anything going on at the franchise level as no different. I mean, I think the Orioles posed a unique challenge and a unique rebuild with some of the ambient circumstances in the division and in the market. And, I think that's always going to be a little bit of the case going forward. But I feel great about the people that we have in the organization, the support from the ownership level, the partnership group, and the health and continuity there between the baseball ops and the owners. It's a very constructive setup, and I think we're gonna do very well.
Mike, when you talk about upgrading, whether it's trades, free agency versus waiting on your own players who can fill those same needs that you see, what are the factors that weigh into that decision? Brandon, I'd love your thoughts as well as from a field perspective of which of those might be a preference or work better given the team's current position.
I think it's a little bit case by case. We're going to have individual evaluations and discussions about individual players, particularly the guys in AAA, maybe AA, that are on the radar screen for 2023. I think if you're looking for a sweeping statement about it, I don't think we want to put ourselves in a position where we're taking something for granted, and you have to prepare for the reality that a lot of players struggle in their first introduction to the major leagues. Although Adley and Gunnar and Kyle have done pretty well this year. So we like that we have internal depth and internal options coming, but I think it's always helpful if we can have some insurance against not just stutter steps in their development or their performance, but maybe injuries.
You guys you mentioned how you have the #1 farm system in baseball. You guys have shown the ability to bring in young talent. You said this offseason is kind of left off with this team. How excited are you to show those skills and bringing in outside talent to help make this team a contender?
Look, I think that this is a very attractive free agent destination now. I think we hear great compliments from our players about the clubhouse environment that Brandon's built, about the way that our players get better here and have really put that on display this year. It's a great town. It's a great ballpark. It's now a great place to pitch. And I think that we're going to have a lot of players wanting to come join this team. It was a really fun vibe all year long. The whole world got to see it. You do play, as Brandon likes to say, this is the varsity division. You're playing on national TV with the lights on, and that's attractive too, even though the competition's tough. So I expect that we're going to have a lot of interest in guys wanting to join this group.
How would you evaluate
to not bring Grayson here for a start at the end? And as you look at 23, Grayson and Jordan Westberg, such big years, do they both have shots to break opening day north with the team? Do you see both playing significant roles?
I'm very confident at this point in time in saying that both Westberg and Grayson will be in Major League camp. I mean, they both had very successful AAA seasons. Grayson obviously had a very unfortunately timed injury. I'm very proud of the way he got over that, and he got over that on the compressed side of the time frame, probably as quick as possible. So everything's looking great there. I mean, with an injury like he had, it's still something to be mindful of, even at this moment in time. But I think he's going to have it way in the rearview mirror when he comes into spring training next year, and I hope he makes our opening day rotation, and I think that's a very high likelihood.
Mike, how would you evaluate just what the new left field wall did for this team?
Well, I don't really know. I think part of the argument that we made to do it was there was going to be an unquantifiable effect on the psyches of the guys that are out there pitching in Camden Yards. And when you talk to pitchers that have pitched here with the old wall, and even from 20, 30 years ago, they'll tell you that it was something that weighed on their minds trying to pitch here, and it affected the confidence they had to throw the ball over the plate. I suspect that it probably helped our pitchers take a big step forward this year. I think it's going to provide us with an interesting nuance to maybe the way that we play or the way that we deploy our lineups or the rosters here. And in a very tough division, I think any kind of inherent unique angle that you can have, maybe something that is helpful. But I really like the fact that cheap fly balls that our pitchers induce aren't home runs at a crazy rate like they have been here for the last 30 years.
Like you plan to leave it as is for the foreseeable future?
I don't know if it'll stay that way forever. I mean, we're planning renovations to Camden Yards as a whole over the next several years, and I could, from what I'm hearing and seeing, I mean, the whole outfield dimensions maybe will possibly be affected by that or not. But certainly it's gonna look this way again next year.
Like the industry loves prospects. You obviously, you love your prospects. Now you're in a situation that you do have some surplus at certain positions, whether it's middle infield, whether it's outfield. Are you willing at this offseason to trade some of those guys, or would you still prefer to trade from the Major League roster and hold on to those guys?
I think we're going to have to if we want to import players from trade. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it done without sending any prospects. So, I really like the players that we've been drafting and developing and trading for, but this is part of the business, and that's why you amass such depth in your organization. There's a 40-man roster. There's a Rule 5 draft. You can't keep everybody, and you also can't play everybody. So we just want to keep stacking good players and good drafts and good international development, so that we're able to use our players, because we don't have the same amount of money as the Yankees, so there's going to be times when our richness in players is going to be what we have to lean into in order to win out here.
Brandon, managing a team from building to winning, and the next step would be an expectation that you're going to win more. Is that fair, and do you embrace what would be a greater expectation moving forward?
Yeah. For us, that is the next step. And we've come a long way in a few years, and be able to have people talking about us going into next spring training with the expectations of our team getting better. Our guys building off of this year, I think we're all embracing that, and we're ready for it, and we're looking forward to it. I think, with no expectations really the last couple of years, expectations of just trying to get your team players better that you have, try to be as competitive as you can, and I think we're ready to take on that next step. And I think we showed that this year with how we played, and I think our guys are going to build off that going into next year.
You often talk about players building confidence. For your first winning season as a Major League manager, has that affected your confidence, your sense of ability to move this thing forward?
I think I'm pretty much the same, honestly. I felt like, I think we're all ready for the next step. And, I came in here with confidence. My confidence wasn't shaken, even though we had such really rough years the last three. Tried to stay as consistent as I possibly could with everything. It's not easy to do. but try to match up as best as I possibly can, try to win as many games as I possibly could. And this year we just had more talent. We had guys produce, and we had bullpen guys get outs. That it became a lot more fun, honestly. And I'm ready for more fun like that.
Just to go back to what I
Yep.
asked before with Mike, how do you view as you're taking that next step, the prospect of doing it with rookies who are trying to break in versus more established guys from the outside?
I think a blend is always the best. And this year I thought we had we were pretty young, but we had a nice blend of guys that be able to break in, as well as guys that had were entering their third, fourth year. And then we've talked a lot about especially the last week or two, but the three older guys that were in our clubhouse that really helped change the culture of expectations to win on a nightly basis. So I think that we're going to continue to build that way. And the bottom line in this league is talent wins. And we've gotten a lot more talented, and we're going to continue to get more talented.
You mentioned Brandon, Manager of the Year. What specifically has he done that's made such an impact? I know it's going to be awkward for you, Brandon. Sorry.
I think this is the year that people are noticing what a talented manager that we have in Baltimore. But for me, this has been 4 years. We've been very process-oriented, like Brandon said. He's been working with the front office to build the entire organization. So this isn't something that's like new for me in 2022, but obviously he's gotten national attention, and rightfully so, for the performance of the team. And for me, more so the style of play that I think we see from these players. And so I think this is a good year for him to win it, but in my mind, it's for the last 4 years. And hopefully many more.
Mike, to kind of piggyback off that, we've seen managers around Major League Baseball kind of lose the clubhouse after having some rough stretches. What do you think has allowed Brandon to kind of still have these guys' ears after having some rough years?
From my standpoint and impressions, we're honest with the players. We communicate with them. We try to provide a supportive atmosphere. Obviously, you're not lovey-dovey all the time. Guys need to hear the truth, but if you're honest with them and they understand that you're aligned with their best interests, I think it creates an atmosphere where they want to play for you, and I think Brandon does a great job with that.
Do you guys think the coaching staff will be back in its entirety for next season?
I don't use press conferences to talk about HR stuff or contracts for players or staff or whatever, but I think that we're proud of what this group did, and all handle our off-season business up and down the entire organization as we proceed through the next couple of months.
Mike, which players who took a step forward this year are you most impressed with at the Major League level?
Which players was I most impressed with at the Major League?
In terms of guys who took that step forward.
It's a
tough one.
Pretty good list. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of with this year's team is you could take all 28 guys who are in that room right now and pretty much make the argument that every single one of their career is in as good or a better place than it was a calendar year ago. And that's first and foremost a testament to them, but I also think it shows to the universe of players that we've got a good system here, that we're interested in making their careers better, keeping them healthy, getting them to perform well. And so I think that's a pretty cool statement about our group that I think is more or less accurate.